It's women in the middle of it. Today we're going to talk about a big lesson I learned when I jumped to some conclusions, didn't have the difficult conversations, didn't have the clarity up front. And what happened next? I worked my ass off and had very little to show for it. Yep, this is all about women overgiving in the workplace. I was approached by a mentor of mine. She asked me to guest teach for her 2-day conference. I was quick to jump in. We were on a deadline. I had very specific ideas about what I would contribute, but I also wanted to just make sure that the whole thing had been thought through, because as someone who leads containers like this, I wanted to make sure that the outcome for everyone was really positive. So it wasn't just my piece, but of course owning the whole, taking more responsibility than I had been asked. But this was typical Meredith, because I jump in fast. I jump in 100%, 110%. I don't think to really set expectations. I didn't think about roles. I thought about them, but then I quickly, the pleaser in me, sidestepped the difficult conversations of, so what exactly is my role? And how do you want to structure this? Yeah, I didn't do any of that. Looking back on it, I thought she was asking me to co-lead this whole thing. And she was just asking for just some really specific outtakes. At the end of the 2-day event, that's 2 days of my time sitting with the group, facilitating, supporting, guiding, and then of course teaching my own segments. At the very end of the day, when we closed everything down, she sent me a note, and I thought it was going to be like, I was really looking forward to the debrief, right? I come from corporate. Let's go and analyze and see what we could do better. Yeah, exactly. She sent me a note saying, oh, we got some great takeaways from our time together. I was like, what? That makes me sound like I was a participant, and I wasn't. And then that was when it hit me. One of those head smacks. What the hell? How did I miss that? Why did I overgive? Why did I take on more than was expected? Why did I jump into this desire to handle it all? And I think there's the pleaser, which is, I didn't want to have a hard conversation. There wasn't a lot of time. I just wanted to get in and do the work. There was the prover. Let me show you how much I know. Let me show you how much value I can add. Let me make this thing rock. And then perfectionist, which was like, there is a right way to do this, and I don't know if you know the right way. So if you don't mind, we could do it this way, and here's how I do this and change this. So in addition to those 3 pleaser, prover, perfectionist pressures that we all deal with as professional women, I think there was also just this undercurrent of being tapped for something that you're really excited and prepared to do, and thinking it's a big deal, and not asking the questions that are hard and maybe would have told me that it's not such a big deal, and I could have contributed 20 minutes on one afternoon versus 2 days of my time for something that wasn't financially benefiting me. It was just more of an emotional benefit. A lot of us overgive because we think we're going to get something. Well, if I overgive here, she'll see how valuable I am, and then maybe she'll ask me to be XYZ. Or if I jump in and show leadership, I'll get rewarded over here. And I just know that often we're left feeling exhausted and pretty disappointed, because typically people will let you work your little ass off and do all the things, and they're like, cool, this helps, but the return is not what you're expecting. So I think that's a lesson too. It is definitely, how can you identify the pressure patterns like pleasing, proving, perfectionism before you jump in and overcommit, overdeliver, or just frankly don't talk about the stuff that you're supposed to talk about. And I think there's a little bit in here around maybe why we don't, like the safety, the hope, the not wanting to be disappointed. So that's what happens when capable women overgive. I think it leaves us feeling a mix of shame and maybe some embarrassment, because we should know better. We've been around the block. It's not our first rodeo. And really, we just did what? And we could have seen that coming. So in my ritual, I talk about a process that when you do spot the pressure, it's a chance to check in, and it's a chance to reorient. And once you name that pressure, I'm telling you, the benefit is you get so much energy back, you get so much clarity back, and also this shame or embarrassment, it gets processed. You're not at the effect of it, because you're like, of course I would have jumped in doing all of that. Of course that makes sense, because I have all these strategies around making things successful. Of course I do that. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It just means for the moment, I got wrapped up in something I wanted to hear instead of maybe the reality of the situation. And we've all done that, right? So a little compassion, a little self-forgiveness, a little self-trust, and then frankly, some resolve. Once you see that truth and you let it land in your body, in your emotional life, yeah, got it. I don't need to do this again. That's when you are at choice. That's when you have freedom. And that's when true leadership emerges, because now, looking back on it, I would stop the presses and say, hey, I get that you want me to do X, Y, Z. Can I just check in about some roles, maybe some scope? Are you looking for X? Are you looking for Y? Or maybe it's, am I trying to make this bigger than it is? So if you're looking for more information about these pressure patterns, I do have a quiz, and I invite you to take it. I'll put the link below. It does tell you what your dominant pressure pattern is, which is really good to know. We always have a little bit of all three coursing through our veins, but there's usually one that surfaces as your go-to. And the minute you understand it, you can spot it. And the minute you spot it, you come into choice again. And discernment is what leadership is all about. The faster you get clarity on something, the faster you can act in alignment. Thanks to the crows today for being such a vocal part of this video. I hope you're enjoying Women in the Middle of It. That's you and me, babe. Yeah, exactly.